Hello, welcome back to Cooking with Mel. Today I am going to be making gluten-free pizza crust. So I bought this flour off of Amazon. I am not affiliated. I use the 00 pizza flour for my pasta, but they had a gluten-free version, so we're going to use that to make gluten-free pizza crust. But I am not going to be making pizza. I'm going to make a calzone, but I'm going to take you through the whole process. So let's get started. Okay, to get started, I have attached my dough hook to my KitchenAid mixer. We are going to put 1 teaspoon of active dry yeast. You can also use rapid. This is the yeast that I use. Make sure that your expiration date, which is listed on the top of mine, it's still good because yeast needs to not be expired or it won't grow. We are going to do 3/4 cup of warm water. Make sure it's not too hot or it will kill the yeast. Then we are going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar. Grab that. 1 tablespoon of sugar. Then we're going to do 1 tablespoon of olive oil. In. Now we are going to do 1.5 teaspoon of salt. So I just have a 1/2 teaspoon, so we're just going to put 3 in. 1, 2, 3. So put that in there. And then finally, we are going to put our gluten-free pizza flour in, and this takes 2 1/4 cups. This makes either 1 thick crust pizza or 2 thin crust. Here's our 1/4 cup. I'm going to do 2. Now this dough is very sticky, but we are going to use the mixer to knead the dough. All right, so our ingredients are all in. Set this up. Now we're going to start mixing it, and I'm going to let it go for about 15 minutes so that it will knead the dough as well as mix it. Okay, so as the dough is mixing, I'm going to shut this off, and I am going to scrape down the side because we want to make sure the flour is completely incorporated, and then we're going to turn it back on and get it going some more. So you want to do that until you get your dough completely incorporated.
Just want to make a real quick edit to the beginning of the video. My pizza dough right now is kneading in my mixer. I did have to add additional water because of the gluten-free flour is slightly different than regular pizza flour. So the back of the bag shows that the total amount of water should be 1.5 cups. So I did have to add additional water to it. So I'm going to put in the directions the actual amount of the water that's necessary to make the gluten-free pizza crust. So that's just a quick note because you're not going to see that in that first clip of the video. So I just did have to make that adjustment. So once we get to a point where it's done kneading, we'll come back and we'll finish this up.
All right, we are back with our gluten-free pizza dough. So I've turned my mixer off and I've removed my dough hook. I have a very smooth pizza dough, slightly sticky. I've shaped it into this ball. We're gonna leave it in the mixing bowl. We're going to cover it with saran wrap, like so. And then we're going to cover it with a tea towel, like that. So the next step to this is what we call proofing. We're going to proof this dough. And what that means is we're going to let it rest for approximately an hour, and we're going to let that yeast grow, and we want this dough double in size. Once it's double in size, then we're going to put it on our baking sheet and make it into pizza. So we're gonna let this rest, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like after it's proofed, and then we're just about done. All right, we are back, and our dough is now double in size. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to lightly flour my counter, and to do that, I'm using the pizza flour we used in the dough. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flour the counter. I'm going to turn the dough out, and I'm actually gonna cut it in half because I'm going to make 2 crusts out of it. Once we have our dough out, I'm just going to use a knife and cut it in half. From here, we're going to transfer it to a baking sheet that has been lightly oiled to shape it into a crust. All right, so I have a cookie sheet here that I am just drizzling some olive oil. This will keep the crust from sticking, but it'll also make it crisp up a little bit. I preheated my oven to 425 degrees. I'm going to take one part of the dough, and I'm just going to use my hands. We're just going to spread it out like this. Now, this is the end of the dough part. You just have to put your toppings on and bake it for about 20 minutes or until lightly golden brown. Sometimes if it's thin, it only takes 15 minutes. So if you don't cut it in half and you do it in one pizza instead of 2, you're going to want the 20. If you cut it in half like I did, you're going to want to do it at 15 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today for our gluten-free pizza dough. Drop me a comment and tell me what your favorite pizza is. This has been Cooking with Mel, where tradition meets taste.